Good evening, ma'am. Okay.
So, good evening. Hope I'm audible. I thought of just revising what we had spoken in the first class. I'm keeping my video off today due to some technical issue. My webcam is not working properly. We'll try to fix it by next class, okay? So we have already completed, like, the first unit is done, which is generally the introduction to economics, and it only consists of basic points which you have to memorize. Hope you remember the names of the economists, the years in which their important publications were being done, and finally we moved on to the three important problems every economy faces, and how the solution to these problems generally classifies the economy into capitalist, socialist, and the mixed economy. That was the first chapter, and it is the most easiest chapter of all the content of your economic analysis paper. Second chapter is a bit more technical, where we are entering into the microeconomics basis, starting with demand. And I explain what demand is actually generally, or quantity demanded is likely to be. And we moved on to the law of demand, which is just the relationship, negative relationship between the price of a commodity with that of quantity demanded. So as a result of law of demand, you have negatively sloping demand curve. I hope you remember all this. Demand curve is a downward sloping demand curve. Okay, negatively sloping because it inhibits the negative relationship or the inverse relationship between demand and the price. Then we saw the important factors that are influencing the demand, which is price of the commodity as a first case. And secondly, we have the price of the related commodity, which is furnished into substitute goods and the complementary good. Substitute good will generally have a positive relationship, and complementary goods will have a negative relationship. Then we moved on to next quantitative factor, which is income of the consumer. It is classified on the basis of the type of commodity. We have the normal good, we have the superior good, and we have the inferior good. Normal and superior generally try to show a positive relationship when in with that of income, quantity of with that of level of income and quantity of demand. But inferior good has got a negative relationship. Okay, with the level of income and quantity demanded, it is a negatively related thing. Then we had subjective factors like taste and preferences of the consumer. Then government plays a very important role in understanding the deciding the quantity of a commodity demanded by the consumer. Then we have the other factors which play very important role, like for example natural calamities. Then we have some unforeseen issues that is coming across. Okay, this was about the demand, and there are 3 to 4 important factors which is falling into the category of exception to law of demand. The first one was the necessary commodities. Second one is the speculative commodity. Third one is the prestige good. Fourth one is the giffen good. Okay, and finally we wound up last class with that of changes in demand. Changes in demand is divided into two. One is expansion and contraction, which is detailing about the changes in the price of the commodity that causes the quantity demanded to expand or to contract. So when price is falling, consumer will expand his quantity demanded, and when price is higher, the consumer tends to contract his quantity demanded. So the movement of the consumer on the same demand curve is mainly because of change in the price alone. Okay, this causes the expansion and contraction. The second one is a shifting of the demand curve. Shifting is basically due to price remaining unchanged, and other factors like income of the consumer, price of the related commodity, then sometimes government regulations, or sometimes any unforeseen issues as mentioned earlier. This causes a rightward shift and a leftward shift. When the demand curve is shifting to the left, it only means that there is a decrease in quantity demanded. And when the demand curve is shifting to the right, it only means there is an increase in the quantity demanded. So this was the revision, or we can say this was what I had done in the last class. We have completed quite a good amount of portion in the last class. Have you gone through it? Any confusions or any clarifications to be made? You can ask. Otherwise, I'll continue with the portion. Any area which clarifications is required?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Right then. So I'll move on to the next one. As I said in the last class, it is generally the numerical area. You cannot find this in your Macmillan book, but obviously these questions are asked frequently. Once in a while, they ask these questions for your CAIB exams. So we are going to see what elasticity is like. Now, elasticity of demand, or it is known as elasticity of price. It means one and the same. Now, there is a classic definition for elasticity, which is the degree of responsiveness of change in quantity demanded with change in price of the commodity. So if price of the commodity is changing, and as a result, what quantity of goods or services the consumer is planning to bring about change, that relationship is measured with the help of the concept elasticity of demand. Okay. Now we have a equation. If you learn this equation, then it would be easy for you to find the answer. There is no other way rather than learning this equation as it is. It is delta QD. Delta stands for the change and QD is quantity demanded. Delta QD divided by delta P. P stands for the price, change in price, into initial price divided by initial quantity demanded. Okay. Here EP stands for elasticity of price. We have three different elasticity concepts. First one is a price elasticity, where the price is the reason for change in quantity demanded. Second one is the price of related commodity. We'll take into account the substitute goods prices and the complementary goods prices that causes the change in quantity demanded of a commodity. And next one is the income of the consumer. So you have three elasticities. I'm just planning to start with the first one, which is the price elasticity. Okay. We are taking the price of the commodity as the factor that causes change in quantity demanded. This is the equation, delta QD by delta P. Delta P stands for change in price, delta QD stands for change in quantity demanded, and the right side fraction is indicating initial price and initial quantity demanded. Now this range of elasticity is between 0 and infinity. Actually, it is like negative infinity to 0, since price is increasing and quantity demanded is falling. That is, both price and quantity demanded are moving in the opposite direction. We'll have the final answer in a negative value. But for our simplicity or for the convenience of understanding the elasticity of demand, we take the modulus value of the elasticity and we consider it as a positive value. So the range of elasticity is between 0 and 1. Now, what does actually 0 indicate? 0 is indicating that whatever be the change in price, okay, let it be price, let it be 0, let it be 100, or let it be any quantity, any value that is denoted for price, there will be no change in quantity demanded. You are planning to buy certain fixed quantity of the commodity, even if the price of the commodity is changing to a large extent. That means numerator will be 0, right? There will be no change in quantity, but obviously you can find change in the price. If numerator is 0, your answer will be 0. So if elasticity is equal to 0, it only indicates that you have a vertical straight line demand curve. Can you give an example for these commodities where elasticity can be equal to 0? Please interact. My question is, can you give example for
petrol, madam?
Yes, sir.
Petrol.
Petrol. Is it true? Can petrol fit into this context? Petroleum products. Whatever be the price, are you going to purchase the same fixed quantity?
Necessity commodity.
Okay. Necessity is a very perfect example. Necessity commodity. For example, we had already mentioned in the exception to law of demand, like medicines. If certain medicines are very essential for you, there is no point in looking forward to the change in the price of the commodity, right? You will be purchasing like one medicine or one pill a day, one tablet a day for any price, if that is so necessary for it. What about petroleum? Will petroleum vary? Your consumption of petroleum vary according to the change in the price? Or are you that kind of a person who is going to consume the fixed quantity of petrol even if the petrol prices varies? Petroleum doesn't fall under the exception to law of demand. It is different, okay? It falls under the category where we are deciding our consumption according to the price. If the price falls, we definitely tend to purchase more. And if the price increases, we naturally tend to consume lesser of it. So this is elasticity equal to 0. And you have elasticity equal to infinity. Okay. Elasticity equal to infinity. This is only a range that is showing. Your demand curve will be horizontal straight line. That means we don't have a real life example for this. Even if there is no change in the price of the commodity, your elasticity or demand is going to change to a larger extent. That is elasticity equal to infinity. Okay, we don't have a real life example, just to show you that elasticity is ranging from 0 to infinity. Okay, you have vertical straight line for 0 and horizontal straight line for infinity. So in between, we have what is known as a unitary elastic, where elasticity is equal to 1. Unitary elastic. Under unitary elastic, your elasticity will be like this. That is, the curve will be having a constant slope. Constant slope means the change in price is going to give about exactly the same change in quantity demanded. That is, if price is increasing or falling at the rate of 5%, your quantity demanded will also change accordingly in the same proportion. So that kind of elasticity is going to have a constant slope demand curve, and elasticity will be equal to 1. Okay, so this is about the background of what price elasticity is, and the main factor for the changes in elasticity is definitely the price of the commodity. We'll start working out some questions, okay? Can I erase the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. We'll work out a few questions. Find the elasticity of demand when price of a good reduced from rupees 25 to rupees 10, causing the consumer increase his demand from 100 units to 150 units. Yeah. I'll write the equation. Elasticity is equal to change in quantity demanded. You can post your answers in the chat box if you have the calculations ready, into P by initial price by initial quantity. Just one answer. I hope everybody has got their study material. Please keep your books and pens ready. We'll be working out some numerical questions also from here on. Just one answer. There are like 30 participants. What about the others? Different answers. Okay. Okay. Right. So change in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded is 100 to 150. There is an increment of 50 units, right? Consumer has increased his consumption at the rate of 50 units, and due to the decline in price, obviously it is negative. From 25 to 10, there is a decline at the rate of 15 rupees into initial price is 25 and initial quantity is 100. We have 1, 4, 10, this is 3. It is 5 by 6. Okay. This is equal to 0.8. Fine. 5 by 6 is your answer. 0.8. I told you it will be negative. Obviously, it is going to be negative, but we take the absolute value, modulus value. So our answer will be 0.8. I hope you got the answer. Most of you have got the answer. Okay. Can we do one more problem?
Ma'am, can you tell me how minus 15 is came? Minus 15 denominator 50 by 15.
Minus 15 because price declined from 25 to 10, no ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, you have to think it logically. It is not like 25 minus 10. You have to think it logically, like price declined from 25 rupees to 10 rupees. That means there is a decline of 15 rupees. So you will take it as a negative value.
Okay. Thank you.
Second question. The quantity demanded of a good at rupees 25 is 150 units and the elasticity of demand is 1.5. Find the read the question carefully and try to do the answer. Try to work out the answer. Different answers. Okay. We'll see what are the important components they have given. They have given the elasticity, right? 1.5 is the elasticity. And question is, you are supposed to find out the new quantity demanded if price is changing, right? So we don't know what the change in quantity demanded is like. They have given only one quantity demanded, which is 150 units. In order to get the change in quantity demanded, you should have the second quantity, which is not given, and that is what you have to find. Now, change in price is obviously given as 5, 25 to 20. There is a decline at the rate of 5 units, 5 rupees. Into initial price is 25 and initial quantity is 150. Okay, you have 5 and you have 30. Okay, you'll get when you cross multiply, quantity demanded change is 1.5 into 30, which is 45. This is not your answer. This is not going to be your answer. This is only mentioning the change in quantity demanded. But the question is, what is a new quantity if the price has fallen down to 20 rupee? So when price was 25 rupee, the consumer was actually consuming 150 quantities. What happens if the price is falling to 20 rupees? Is he going to consume more of it, or is he going to consume less of previous quantity? He will obviously consume more of it, because when price falls, as per the law of demand, unless and otherwise it is mentioned in the question, law of demand is exhibiting the negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. So when price is falling, you will expect more quantity to be purchased by the consumer, more than 150. To what extent more? You have to add this quantity to the older quantity so that you will get the new quantity. This is your change in quantity demanded. So your new quantity will be 195. Okay. Answer for this question is not 45, it is 195. Those who have written 45 as the answer, that would not be your answer. You have reached only halfway. You have to complete the calculation to get the answer. Is this area clear?
Yes.
Okay. Some of you have got 105. Okay, that is understood. Why? What is the reason for 135? What is that 135? Where did you get that 135 from? Okay. Shall we go on to the next part? I'm erasing the board. Okay, I told you there are three kinds of elasticity. First has already been mentioned as the price elasticity. Second one is when the income of the consumer is changing, right? Income of the consumer causing different elasticities. Now here, keep in your mind that when income of the consumer is changing, it depends upon the type of commodity, type of good under consideration. So we have the normal good, it will have a positive value, but that positive value will be between 0 and 1. Okay, if the good under consideration is a normal good, then elasticity, income elasticity would be positive and its value will range between 0 and 1. Then secondly, if the commodity is superior category commodity, that will also have a positive value, but it will have its value greater than 1. And the last kind of commodity is the inferior commodity, which will exhibit a negative value. So any value less than 0 is going to show that your income elasticity being negative, it only shows that the commodity under consideration is inferior in nature. Now, income elasticity, okay, income elasticity is EY. Y, capital Y stands for elasticity of income. Same equation, only thing is you are changing the factor that causes your demand to change. So delta QD by delta Y into initial income divided by initial quantity demanded. Here you have to consider the sign, okay? For demand elasticity, we had neglected the sign of the final answer, but for income elasticity and the next elasticity, which we are going to discuss, their sign should be considered, because sign is going to tell you what good is being put under the question. Fine. We'll do one question, okay? Income elasticity. The income of the consumer fell from rupees 500 to rupees 250, causing a goods consumption to increase from 150 units to 300 units. Calculate income elasticity. I don't think the answer is correct. Yeah, it is negative, right? The statement itself is going to help you understand whether it is positive or negative. Income is falling and increase in demand for that commodity. That means they are going in two different directions. So you have income elasticity, change in quantity demanded is 150 units, and the change in your income is 500 to 250, means there is a decline of 250 rupees as your income. Into initial income is 500 and initial quantity consumed is 150. Yeah, you'll have minus 2. Okay. So it is negative 2. So what does negative indicate? The good is, since it is a negative,
Inferior.
yeah, it is an inferior. It is an inferior commodity. We have got negative answer. It only shows that the commodity that the consumer has bought is only negative, inferior commodity. Has it been at positive 2? If the answer was positive 2, then the good might have been superior good. Okay. Answer, if it was positive 2, since it is greater than 1, the good will be superior. If it was between 0 and 1, for example, if it was 0.54, etc., then the commodity will be normal commodity. So here sign matters, value of the elasticity also matters for income elasticity. Is this clear? Income elasticity is clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then I go to the next one, which is a cross elasticity. Last kind of elasticity. Okay. I'm clearing the board. Okay. Cross elasticity. Cross is when the demand for the related the demand for a commodity changes due to change in the price of related commodity. Okay. Here we have considered X as the commodity and the quantity demanded of X, QD of X changes due to change in the price of Y. X and Y being related commodity into initial price of Y divided by initial quantity demanded of X. Here also sign matters. As we have mentioned in the first class, substitute goods will exhibit a positive relationship. So if you get an answer for cross elasticity as a positive value, then X and Y are literally having a relationship of substitute goods. And if the commodity, if the answer is negative, X and Y is generally complementary in nature. So for income elasticity and cross elasticity, sign really matters. Positive answer is for substitute goods and negative for complementary goods in the case of cross elasticity. Okay. Demand elasticity is not so important. Even if you have negative answers and option of negative, definitely go for it. Otherwise, sign doesn't matter for demand or the price elasticity. We'll do a question, okay? The quantity demanded for X is 300 units when its price is rupees 100 per kg. Okay. The price of Y Okay, this is a question. You are supposed to find the cross velocity of demand for X. Any other answer? Everybody, please try working out the question. Okay, it's positive. Fine. So we'll see change in, they are asking you to find out the question is right, asking you to find the elasticity of demand for X, right? We'll find change in quantity demanded of X. X is moving from 25 to 30. So it is 5 units change in X's quantity. And at that time, price of Y is also increasing. So it is increasing at the rate of 20 rupees. Into initial price of Y is 20, and at that price, X bought was 25. So we have 1 by 5, okay, 0.2, positive value 0.2. Okay, since it is 0.2 positive value, X and Y are substitute goods. Is the question clear? Yeah, most of you have got the answer, 0.5. Okay, X and Y are substitute goods because your value is, answer you have got is positive. That is when price of Y increased, X's demand also increased. Since they are moving in the same direction, we have the positive answer. Even if it was like falling, if price of Y falls, causing demand for X falls also, you'll get the same positive value. The cross velocity is also clear. Any confusions? With this, we have completed the demand side. We have covered what demand is, what law of demand is, factors influencing demand, then exception, then the expansion and contraction, shifting of demand, then the elasticities, 3 elasticities. Yeah, please, sir.
In this question, why you took demand as 25 instead of 300? Because in the first line you quoted that demand is 300.
Yeah, that is an additional statement that is given to you just for confusion. Okay, here at rupees 100 per kg, the quantity of X demanded is 100. And what does cross elasticity actually measure? It measures the changes in demand for X when the price of Y changes. No, why should you bother about the change in the price of X? Whatever be it, it doesn't matter. The price of X does not matter, only the price of Y matters, and what influence it has got on the demand for X matters. Okay, that could be the reason why you have got like my 0.016, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that is
Right to pinch
and yes, I know it. That is how the question is going to be formulated, and you will have obviously the first option as 0.016 itself. So be careful. Please read the entire question properly. Find out how you have to apply the question in the equation. Once you know the equation, then it would be easy for you to apply the equation. Okay. Right, sir. We have covered the three important elasticity: price elasticity, income elasticity, and cross. Price, I'm repeating it again. Sign doesn't matter so much, but for income and cross elasticity, sign matters. Okay, they are going to help you understand what kind of commodity the question or the context is planning to give out. So with this, we have completed demand. We have to go to the second half of market force, which is the supply. If you're comfortable with demand, supply would be very easy, because in the initial class I had told you supply is nothing but putting the opposite of demand and viewing it from a supplier point of view. You will get the entire context of supply. Okay, we'll start with supply. Okay, now what supply is? Quantity supplied. Okay, what quantity supplied is when a seller or a producer or a supplier is actually planning to supply at a given price. So what quantity of a commodity? Quantity of a good, or it can be a service. Okay, quantity of a good or a service a seller or a producer, etc., is planning to supply or planning to bring that in the market at a given price is known as quantity supply. So make sure that you are understanding the difference between supply and sales. Supply is not at all equal to sales. Supply is not equal to sales. Sales is one which is actually met after the consumer is purchasing from the seller. Right? Supply is only the intention or the wish of the supplier to bring it to the sales. So supply is not equal to the sales, and it is only a wish of the seller to provide such and such quantity of a commodity at any given price. Okay, we'll see important factors that influences supply. Factors that influence or determine supply. Now think yourself as a supplier. What are the important factors that will influence your production or supply?
Price.
Yeah, of course, the price of the commodity, as the definition itself is explaining it. Price of the commodity is very important factor that influences the supply of a commodity.
Supply chain.
What kind of supply chain?
Transport kind of.
Okay. Right. Any other factor? We'll put that, or we'll just group that under a common heading. Okay. Any other factor? Okay. Cost. Right. Price of the commodity, price of related commodity. Does the price of substitute good and complementary good play a role here? They definitely play a very important role. Price of related commodity here, substitute good prices and complementary good prices. Substitute good and complementary good, their prices are going to have a serious influence on the supply of a commodity, and cost of production. As one of you has already mentioned, supply chain, it only helps you understand what cost the seller or the producer is actually incurring. So cost of production or cost of supply is having an influence of quantity supply. Fourth one is what kind of technology you are making use of. If you're using better technology, you will be in a position of supplying or producing more of the commodity. But if you're using outdated technology, it is not going to have any effect, or it is not going to better your production or supply. So state of technology, though it is a technical term or though it is a value added term, we have to consider state of technology. And here also government regulations, similar to that of demand. Government can influence production. Government can influence the supply of a commodity. They can take decisions according to different economic situations, economic social situations, and of course other factors. Yeah, every logistic transport, all those are included under cost of production. Logistic transport, then you have supply chain, some amount of taxes being included or excluded, new taxes implemented, all these are having its own influence. Okay, somebody has already given demand as a factor. Is demand going to influence your supply? Is demand going to influence your supply?
Definitely.
Okay, so everybody is looking forward towards demand influencing supply. Supply influences demand. Okay, demand is not having any influence on supply. Very negligible influence, even though it is a negligible influence. Because let me tell you, I'll take it from your example, okay, your service provider example. Will you go to your office even if you come to know that not even a single customer is going to come to your office that day? I'm repeating the question. You know that no customer is going to come to your bank office or bank branch a day. Will you be interested to go for your work?
No, ma'am.
No. What if your price or your salary is being cut for that day if you're not going to your branch?
Then I will go, ma'am.
Definitely you go, right? So is demand influencing your supply? You come to know that, like, instead of 100 customers, next day you're having 200 customers. Are you going to back off from your work, or will you go and work? Demand doesn't matter. I'll give you my example. Even if I have one student or even if I have 1,000 students, I am going to work on the price I'm going to get, right? For one student, I'm going to get like 100 rupees, and for 1,000 students also, I'm going to get 100 rupees. Will it influence my supply?
No.
No, right. You got the idea. Demand actually has got only negligible influence. The most important factor that influences supply of a commodity or a service is itself its price. Okay. The amount you are working depends upon the demand. You may have to work overtime. If instead of 100 customers, there are 1,000 customers, you may have to work overtime. That is your sales actually. It is not your supply. What you're furnishing is your sales. But what you are willing to supply is supply. I hope you got the difference. See, even if there is no for example, any commodity is not at all being demanded, we can see a whole lot of such examples in agricultural commodities. You can find farmers producing and producing and producing, and nobody wants that commodity at all. Okay. And finally, they'll come to a stop, or they'll come to an end of producing the commodity when they find that there is a huge amount of stock available. That is another thing. And they know that they are not going to get any price because there is a huge amount of stock being piled up. Fine. So the influencing factor of supply initially in the first case itself is the price of the commodity. So if we take price of the commodity and supply of a commodity, what kind of relationship can you arrange or can you see? When price is increasing from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, supply, when price is lesser, your quantity supplied will be lesser, as and when the price increases, supply also increases. That means price and quantity supplied has got a positive relationship or direct relationship. This is law of supply. Here also we keep that condition ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus means all other factors remaining the same. The quantity supplied of a good or a service, okay, of a commodity is directly related to price of the commodity. Okay, as and when price increases or falls, supply also moves in the same direction. So when you are depicting this, or when you are planning to graphically draw the table, you have x-axis detailing about the quantity supplied and y-axis detailing about the price, and your supply curve is an upward sloping curve. Okay, I told you demand is opposite to supply. Demand was a downward sloping curve and supply is now an upward sloping curve.
Madam,
Yeah.
excuse
me. Yes, sir.
Madam, actually, demand and supply have some connection now. Because if price of a commodity is increased, then the demand will become less, and of course, when the demand comes low, the supply will be also.
That's what I told you. What is the first instinct when a producer or a seller is planning to supply a commodity? Will he look for the demand or will he look for the price?
Look for demand.
He will look for the demand.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah, prices also matter, but the product should be.
No.
Should be
How do you think that VRDDI might have started? Do you think they were looking forward to number of children and they started an institute? No, children is a student.
No.
No, right?
No.
They might have opened to provide a service.
Okay.
And finally, when according to the number of intakes, only they are going to extend their supply, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they are looking forward whether it is feasible or not. That would be the first thing. Okay, profitable or not.
Okay.
The price matters there. What had you ever thought that we would be switching from your old type of model phones to the smartphones? That was a risk undertaken by the supplier, right?
Yes.
Okay, did they look forward to the demand of the mobile phone users at that time?
No.
Clear, no?
Clear.
Okay, so they are looking forward to the price, and of course, profit, feasibility, everything will be taken care of. And eventually, when due to decline in demand, and further, if they find that it is not profitable to them, that is, they are not fetching any price for the commodity, then they will stop.
When price increased, then supply will be increased. How price increase then supply increase? Can you give some example for this?
Sir, you consider yourself in this situation. Will you try to go for your work if your salary was just 100 rupees every day?
No, you will switch to other jobs having good salary.
Okay, you look for other jobs, right?
Yeah.
You are going for work only because you are getting a decent salary. Right? So if your salary is increased, will you not be interested to spend a little more time? Are you working the same manner in which you had been working at the starting of your profession?
No.
No, right? You got my point?
No.
Okay. As a seller, this is how our hoarding, I hope you are all familiar with the term hoarding. Okay. We are black marketing, hoarding takes place with the expectation that price is going to rise tomorrow, why should they hide all the commodities with an expectation of increased price tomorrow?
Mhm.
You got the point, right?
Yes, sir.
Rices, pulses, wheat, everything, all the cereals, etc. When the price is increasing, accelerating at a higher rate due to some natural calamities or any other issues, you can find all the suppliers hoarding the commodity because
Yes.
they can sell that commodity at a higher price tomorrow, not today, so that they can make more profit.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is the relationship between price and quantity supply. Opposite, I suppose all this confusion is due to you are thinking from a consumer perspective. So when it is coming to supply perspective, please make sure that you are thinking from a seller perspective. Imagine or consider yourself as a bank service seller. Then you'll get the answer. You imagine yourself as based upon your profession, you'll get the answer. Okay. So price of commodity is an influential factor. So we have the law of supply and the supply curve moving in the positive direction. Then price of related commodity. Okay, second factor is price of related commodity. As one of your member already mentioned that if price is lesser, we would be switching from the existing job to another job which is going to pay you more. Okay, you are substituting. That means you will have a negative relationship. That is price of Y and quantity supplied of X are negatively related. If price of Y is higher, the seller would be happy to supply more of Y and he will cut down the sales or supply of X. That is the reason they are negatively related. Okay, for substitute good, but for complementary good, it is positively related. Imagine tea seller. Tea seller is selling coffee also. If price of tea is higher and if some customer comes and asks for coffee, do you think the tea seller would be happy to provide coffee? He would say that we don't, for time being, we are not selling coffee. It would be better that you take tea. That means he is happy to supply more of tea rather than coffee. That is a relationship between substitute goods. Complementary goods, positively related. So when price of Y is changing, quantity supplied of X moves in the same direction. For example, bread and jam. If price of bread is higher, the seller would be supplying more of bread. And you have to take bread and jam together, right? Since jam is a complementary for bread, he would be happy to supply more of jam also. Okay. This is complementary goods. So relationship between substitute goods supply and its substitutes price are negative, whereas relationship between complementary goods price and complementary goods is supply is positively related. Okay. Third one is cost of production. Fine. Cost of production and supply are negatively related. Cost of production and quantity supplied are negatively related. How come negatively related? See, when labor is one factor of production, right? If all the laborers are demanding higher remuneration, wages or salaries, how will it affect the cost of production? Will cost of production be lower or will cost of production be higher?
Higher.
Yeah, higher, right? When laborers are demanding higher remuneration, cost of production increases. When cost of production is higher, will the producer be able to produce more or lesser?
Lesser.
Lesser, right? So you got the negative relationship.
Yes,
Cost
ma'am.
of production and quantity supplied are negatively related. It can go in the opposite direction, like laborers or raw materials. Let it be raw materials or bank credit has been available at a cheaper price. So what happens there is cost of production falls. When cost of production falls, the seller or the producer is now successful in producing more of the commodity rather than what he had produced in the previous time. So cost of production and quantity supplied are negatively related. State of technology, it is a qualitative term, technical term, as I mentioned earlier. State of technology, improved state of technology can help the producer produce more, or the seller to sell more, not sell, supply more. Some old or outdated technique of production will only help the producer to produce lesser. You're using old machines, old softwares, old computers, etc. This causes the supply of the commodity to fall. That is also negatively related, positively related. Improved technology, better production, better supply. Outdated technology, lesser supply or lesser production. Okay. Government regulation, also another factor. It depends from time to time based upon the policies of the government. Based on the policy of the government. If government plans to increase the taxes on business activity, will it improve supply or will it reduce supply? Taxes on businesses, excise duty, GST, or you can say the
Reduce.
sales tax. Yeah, sales tax. It will have a negative effect, right? Government imposing new taxes on the business means supply or the production of the commodity will fall. And if they are providing some favorable business environment, reduction of taxes, or giving some tax holidays, or providing some credit facility, it will help to produce more or supply more. Okay, that is government regulation. And at the same time, you have the other factors like natural calamities. I said agricultural commodities are usually being hit due to natural calamity. Okay, these are the important factors that is influencing your supply. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. I'm clearing the board. Changes in supply. Okay, same as that of demand, we are having changes in supply. Two reasons for changes in supply. One is change in price of the commodity alone. This causes expansion and contraction. Same concept, only thing is you have to consider it for supply rather than for demand. Okay, then change in other factors. At this point, it causes shifting of supply curve. Okay, we'll take the first case. Change in price causing expansion and contraction. This is your quantity supplied axis, and this is a price axis. Supply is upward sloping. You have the initial price P and initial quantity Q1, P1. So if the price is increasing, this causes the supply of the commodity to also rise. This is expansion. When price is higher than the previous price, this tends the supplier to supply more, causing expansion of supply. Okay, same way it can move in the opposite direction. Price falling, P3, causing the supply of the commodity to fall to Q3. This reduction of price causes contraction. Same concept, but the only thing is changes in the direction of the movement of price and quantity defines the expansion and contraction of demand and supply. Is this clear? Change in price alone, when other factors remaining constant, causes expansion and contraction of supply. Expansion of supply takes place when price increases, causing supply to increase. Contraction of supply causes due to decline in the price, causing the seller to supply more, lesser. Okay. The second change is due to other factors. Any doubts? If I'm moving fast, or if you want any clarification or any pause, please let me know. Okay. Second change is when supply is changing due to other factors. Price is OP, you have quantity supplied at Q1. At what instances can the seller go for a lesser supply of Q3 at the same price and higher supply of Q2 at the same price? What could be the possible reasons for supply to change from Q1 to Q2 or to Q3 without change in price? So rightward shift of supply curve is increase in supply, okay? If supply curve is shifting to the right, it means there is an increase in supply. At the same price, the seller can supply higher, and at the same price, the seller can supply lesser. When the seller is planning to supply lesser at the same price, it means supply curve shifting to the left. Supply shifting to the left causes lesser supply. Supply curve shifting to the right causes an increase in supply. What could be the possible reasons? If cost of production changes, if laborers are demanding higher remuneration, to which direction will the supply curve shift? If laborers are demanding higher wages, to which direction will the supply curve shift?
Left.
Yeah, leftward, because when laborers are demanding higher wages, the supplier will not be in a situation of supplying. They have to cut down their supply. This causes the supply curve to shift towards left. If the price of substitute good increases, to which direction will the supply curve of this commodity shift?
Right.
Right? Price of substitute good increases. It's left, because substitute good and price of substitute good and quantity supplied of substitute good are negatively related. So if price of Y increases, then supply of X will fall. This causes the supply curve to shift towards left. Okay. Government easing business transaction. Government is easing business transaction. To which direction will the supply curve shift?
Right.
Right. Government is relaxing business activity, means you are now in a position to supply more. This causes the supply curve to shift towards right. Clear now? Shifting of the supply curve, there will be no change in the price, but all other factors. It can be cost of production, usage of technology. Better technology being used means rightward shift. Outdated technology means leftward shift of the supply curve. Government's influence, natural calamities, some pandemics that like what we are experiencing now. All these are influential factors for shifting of the supply curve. Clear now? Shall I move on to the numerical area of supply? Similar to that of demand, we have elasticity of supply. Okay, very similar to that of demand. Instead of demand, here we are considering the change in supply, degree of responsiveness of change in quantity supplied when price of the commodity changes. Okay, you have the same equation. Elasticity of supply is equal to change in quantity supplied with respect to change in price. Fortunately, we have only one type of elasticity under supply, and that is only price elasticity or elasticity of supply, unlike demand elasticity, because other factors are not considered here. Okay, and here sign doesn't matter because price and quantity supplied are moving in the same direction. So you have the range of elasticity of supply between 0 and infinity itself. So if it is 0, again, it will be a vertical straight line supply curve. That means whatever be the supply price, the supply is going to be in the fixed quantity. Okay. Can you give example for this situation? Supply is remaining to be at a fixed quantity, whatever be the price. Example for elasticity equal to 0 category of goods.
Crypto,
I did not get you, sir.
cryptocurrencies, ma'am.
Cryptocurrencies.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, to one extent. Some common examples. Those commodities whose it only means that those commodities availability or supply is fixed, whether the price is 0 or whether the price is going to be any extent or it moves to any extent.
Medicine,
Do you think medicines are being provided on the basis of price? They are looking forward to make profit, no? Government services is an example.
Money supply, or be
Okay, money supply is another example, right? Government influencing or central bank is influencing or looking forward to supply of money. They are not going to get any interest on money, right? Price for money, if you're taking money supply, what is the price given for money? It is the rate of interest. So whatever be the rate of interest, Reserve Bank of India is not so particular about what interest they are going to fetch, because it is a non-profit organization or it is basically the central bank of any country, of our country. So money supply remains the same. Other than that, common thing is any commodities whose availability is fixed. I told you that. Even if I ask for a second Mona Lisa by Leonardo, can I get second one? Its quantity is fixed. Clear? I have got, or the entire world has got only one quantity. So whatever be the price, the quantity which I am planning to get or I am planning to supply, that is fixed. Same way land. Land is the best example. Medicine doesn't come here because they can influence the supply according to price. Land is another important example. Government services, government essential services, for example, COVID vaccine. If they are providing free of cost, they are not looking forward to the change in price. They are looking forward to the supply. Supply is fixed. We have to provide vaccine for 100 crores of people. That is fixed. Okay. And opposite of this, again, it is a hypothetical situation where supply is elasticity of supply is infinity. Whatever be the no change in price causing indefinite amount of change in quantity supply. Just a hypothetical situation. Okay, we'll do one problem. This is very easy. Find the elasticity of supply of a good whose price just a simple question. Yeah, got common answer. 0.83. Okay, elasticity is equal to change in quantity is 25 units and change in price is 150 rupees into initial price is 250 and okay, initial quantity is 50. We get 0.8. Okay, positive value. Most of you have got the answer, right? All of you have got the answer. Clear, elasticity is done. Any confusions until here? We are nearing the ending of the second chapter. Last portion is where we are going to club the demand and supply together. Any confusions in demand and supply can be clarified. Nothing to be clarified? Okay. Okay. Now, why did we take the two forces in a different perspective is to bring them together, and it is brought together for the intention of identifying or determining market equilibrium. Market equilibrium is nothing but the price determination of a good or a service. How is price of a commodity determined? How do you think price of a commodity is being determined?
Demand.
It is on the basis
Demand
of
and
demand.
supply.
Yeah, you have to take both the forces together. You cannot take demand alone. You cannot take supply alone. You cannot. You can never say it is price of the commodity is based on the cost of production. That is a common answer I get when I ask the question, how is price determined? See, I am producing a commodity and my cost of production is 10 rupee, and I thought of keeping the price of the commodity at rupees 50 because it's going to fetch me a lot of profit. Do you think my commodity will ever be sold in the market? For 10 rupee cost of production, I am fixing price at 50 and I'm selling it in the market. Is anybody going to purchase my commodity? No, right? Same way, consumers always want commodities at a very low price. That is our attitude. For example, the same commodity as a consumer, I want it for just 2 rupees. Will a seller be able to supply? He also is not in the position to supply at 2 rupees unless and until the seller is a government or looking forward for social service. So we have to bring these two together, right? That is, we have to take into account the consumer perspective and the seller perspective together and find where they are negotiating. So I am clubbing the two tables together, which we had dealt differently for demand and supply. Price on one hand, demand on the second column, and third column you have the supply. So when price is low, the demand is higher. Since it is moving in the opposite direction, price increases, causes demand to fall. But it is opposite for supply. When price is increasing, supply is also increasing. So here you can find that at rupees 3, demand is equating with that of supply. This is the market equilibrium. Market equilibrium is the price determination point. Okay, you have quantity and price. Demand curve is a downward sloping curve. Supply is an upward sloping curve. The point where demand curve is intersecting with that of supply or equating with that of supply is equilibrium. Equilibrium is a physics term. Again, elasticity was a physics term. Some terms and concepts had been borrowed from science discipline for supplementing our concept, economics concept. So when demand is equating with that of supply, we have price of the commodity determined, and at that price, what quantity of commodity is being bought and sold, what is being demanded and being supplied. So this is equilibrium point. At equilibrium point, demand is equating with that of supply. And here you can find when price is not at the equilibrium position, okay, they are known as disequilibrium position, or we can say when supply is not equal to demand, the market is actually experiencing disequilibrium situation. Fine. See, when price here is lesser than 3 rupee, you can see demand is exceeding that of supply. Here, when it is 2 rupee or when it is 1 rupee, demand is greater than supply. So demand is moving until here, but sellers are only happy to provide this much amount, this much quantity. So this situation is known as excess demand, or we can say it is a shortage being created in the economy. Not created, shortage in the economy. Same if you go to the opposite direction, you have 4 rupee or 5 rupee, etc. You can find here supply is exceeding that of demand. Sellers are happy to supply more, but the customers or the consumers don't want them at such a high price. Here, excess supply of the commodities being seen. So these are the two disequilibrium situation. Disequilibrium situation takes place when demand is not equal to supply. There is an imbalance in the economy. Okay. This change is only due to fluctuations in the price. You remember expansion and contraction, which had been mentioned. Expansion and contraction, when price changes or there is a movement in the prices, this causes expansion or contraction of demand and supply. That is, when price is falling, you can find expansion in demand but contraction in supply. If price is increasing, you can expect or you can see demand is contracting but supply is expanding. So this is a situation of expansion and contraction. Expansion and contraction is taking place only due to change in the price of the commodity. Is equilibrium concept clear?
Yes.
Okay. We are going to the depth of this part. I'm clearing the board, please. Okay, we'll see how equilibrium changes. Okay, changes in equilibrium situation. There are actually 3 different reasons for changes in equilibrium. First case is when there is a shift in demand curve. When demand is shifting, we assume supply to remain constant. Okay. This causes what change in demand, what change in equilibrium price and quantity. That is what we are going to find. Shift in demand, supply remaining constant. See, there is 2 ways to understand this changes in equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Either you can learn this by heart, okay, or my suggestion is always to visualize the situation graphically, because in your exams or for the so far exams, questions are generally given on a case study basis. They will give you situation and options will be given like equilibrium price increased or equilibrium quantity fell. So instead of learning it by heart, which will always create confusion, just make sure that you are visualizing the given situation graphically and tend to find the changes in the equilibrium position. Okay, I'll help you how you can do it. Pay your fuller attention. You have your equilibrium, the x-axis measuring the quantity of commodity and y-axis measuring the price. We'll take the initial situation of demand downward sloping and supply upward sloping. And when the initial demand curve and supply curve are intersecting, you have the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity being determined or fixed. Okay. We assume there is no change in supply curve. And we have already seen that there are different reasons for demand curve to shift. Price of complementary goods fell. To which direction will the demand curve of this commodity move? Price of complementary good fell. To which direction will the demand curve of this commodity shift?
Left side.
Yeah, left, right? Complementary good, it is, no, not left, not left. Complementary good, demand relationship, positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative, right? So when price of a complementary good is falling, demand for its complement is going to move in the opposite direction. Did you get it? Price of Y falls. Which direction will quantity demanded of X move if Y and X are complementary commodity? It will move.
Explain once again, ma'am.
See, complementary commodity demand relationship is negatively related, right? If price of Y falls, and if we are considering good X here, the demand for X is increasing. So if price of Y complementary of X is falling, causes demand curve of X to shift towards the right. That means X is demanded more by the people or consumers. So you have the new demand curve D1. There is no change in supply curve. What change in equilibrium price and quantity can be seen? Petrol and what? Petrol and?
Vehicle.
Yeah, very good. That is the best example. When price of petrol falls, you will be making use of your own personal vehicle more, right? Yeah, car or your own personal vehicle. When petroleum prices increases, are you going to use more of your vehicle? We'll put aside our own vehicle and take the public transportation. No. So their demand is moving in the opposite direction. They are complementary goods. Definitely, we can take petrol as the best example. Petrol and the automobile. Okay, this is a case where demand is shifting to the right. This causes the price of the commodity to increase and equilibrium quantity also to increase. Fine. Supply is remaining constant here. There is no change in supply. Rightward shifting of the demand curve. I'll write that. First case, shift in demand, supply is constant. You can learn the statement as it is. Rightward shift of demand curve increases equilibrium price and quantity, the supply remaining constant. Okay, this is a statement. If you find the graphical visualization difficult, you can by heart the statement. Okay, we'll go to the opposite. We'll take situation where supply is demand is shifting to the left. Income of the consumer falling. To which direction will the demand curve shift? If the good is normal good, income of the consumer falling and X is a normal good, to which direction will the demand curve shift?
Left side demand is low. So
Yeah, left side, correct. So when income of the consumer is falling for normal commodity as well as superior commodity, the demand curve is shifting towards the left. Now leftward shifting of the demand curve, you can find here price of the commodity is falling and quantity also falls. Okay, leftward shift of demand causes equilibrium price and quantity to fall, keeping supply constant. That is a condition, keeping supply constant, and any change in demand is going to have same effect or the same directional effect on equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Is this clear? Situation clear? Shall I go to the second case? I'm clearing the board. Second instance is where we bring about change in supply. At this moment, we take demand to remain constant. Okay, demand is held constant and supply is the change. Supply is changing. And we have quantity, price, demand remaining the same. Initial supply and demand is intersecting at a point P and Q. Okay, cost of production increases. To which direction will the supply curve shift? Cost of production increases.
Left.
Yeah, supply curve will shift towards the left. Cost of production increases means there is a reduction in the supply. This causes the supply curve to shift towards left. When supply curve is shifting towards the left, demand is remaining the same, price has increased and equilibrium quantity has fallen. Clear? Leftward shift of supply causes increased equilibrium price and reduced equilibrium quantity. Okay, we go for the opposite. If we go for the opposite, that is government implementing tax holidays for business or producers for 5 years. To which direction will the supply curve shift? Government implementing tax holidays for business people or producers. To which direction will the supply curve shift?
Right, ma'am.
Right side, correct. Rightward shift means there is an increase in the supply of the commodity. You can find equilibrium price to have fallen. That means more of supply, but demand is constant. So you can find price of the commodity to have fallen and equilibrium quantity to rise. So rightward shift of supply causes equilibrium price falling and equilibrium quantity to increase. Okay. Price is directly related to directly proportional to quantity. Here, price is not the cause of change in supply. Price causing changes in supply only brings about expansion and contraction. Here, shifting of supply curve is not due to the price, but due to other factors other than price. You shouldn't take price as the influential factor for supply. There are other factors that influences supply, and due to the shifting of supply, you can expect equilibrium price of the commodity to change. And it has got another effect or another reason for changes in equilibrium price, and it is due to constant demand. Just analyze the situation. Am I clear? Shall I go on to the third case where both the supply and demand is changing? Okay, I'm clearing the board. So there will be instances where both forces change. It's not like demand is going to remain the same or supply is going to remain the same. Both forces changes. Okay. So we'll see when both are moving in the same direction, quantity and price, you have the initial demand curve and initial supply curve. Okay. And the first level, equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity is being determined. Now, demand and supply is moving in the same direction and in the same proportion. Demand and supply is increasing. That means rightward shift of demand and rightward shift of supply is increasing and in the same proportion. Same proportion means 5% change in demand and 5% increment in supply. You can see here, it should be, if you're drawing with the correct measurement, you can find there is no change in equilibrium price, but equilibrium quantity has increased. Okay, same thing happens when the demand and supply is moving in the leftward direction. So when demand as well as supply is shifting towards left in the same proportion, you can expect no change in the equilibrium price, but equilibrium quantity has fallen. Okay, clear? Same proportion. Okay. Now, if I give you a situation, will you be able to tell me the changes in the equilibrium price and quantity? I'll write the situation here and I'll draw the initial graph. Okay, I'll draw the initial graph here. This is quantity of commodity X, price of commodity X, demand for good X, and supply of good X. They are intersecting and equilibrium price is determined at P, quantity is determined at Q. And X is a normal commodity. X is a normal good. Okay. Situation is the substitute good of X, the price of, okay, the price of substitute good of X has increased, influencing the demand of that demand for X. Cost of production of X has increased due to high raw material price. Considering same proportionate change in demand and supply, what change in equilibrium price and quantity is seen? Okay, you have to tell whether both has risen, both fallen, or price rise but quantity fell, price fell or quantity has risen. This is the situation. Okay, please try to graphically visualize the situation and give the answer.
Both risen, madam.
quantity increases, ma'am.
What about price?
Remains same.
I hope all others are attending the question. These are the type of question which you have to expect from the demand and supply chapter. They are not going to give you direct questions like what we had discussed earlier, which is the influential factor for demand, which is the exception to law of demand. Such question is not expected. All these had been learned so that you can apply their understanding in cases of this pattern, like how demand is being influenced and what shifting or changes in demand is seen when some factors influencing demand are changed. Only 2 answers. What about the others? Are you all trying to work out the question, please? I heard there are like 80 participants and we have got only 25. Is this the case for all the subject or only for economics?
Generally, the participation is to the tune of 30 to 40, between 30 and 40. We also had initially 40, but as time goes, many of them maybe, I don't know, from some internal commitments, they are not attending. Anyhow,
Okay.
we have been telling them that never miss the classes. These are very important classes. You have taken so much of pain to take, even to make such important questions, which are not direct questions.
Yes, sir.
So anyhow, we are sharing the recording with them. Please. Okay. Participants, kindly communicate with her at least what you feel, or when she's asking whether you are working on that, or if you are not in a position to understand, please communicate with her. That will make the session more interactive and fruitful. Thank you.
We'll see how this is working. Okay, I got only 2 to 3 answers. Both rises. Okay. So first case is price of substitute good X increases. So to which direction will the demand curve of X shift?
Right.
It will move to the right, right? Because substitute good demand is positively related. So price of Y increases means demand for X increases. And in the same proportion, they have given you cost of production of X has also increased. So to which direction will the supply curve shift?
Left, ma'am.
Left. Okay. Leftward shift. In the same proportion. Okay. What is the change in price?
Okay, both.
Yes.
Yeah, both.
Both.
It is not like both changing. Price has increased. I have given in the question that demand and supply is changing in the same proportion. Since I have not written in the option, can you see that there is no change in quantities? Equilibrium quantity remains the same. Demand is increasing in the same proportion as that of fall in supply. Okay, demand has increased at the rate of 5% and supply has fallen at the rate of 5%, means you can expect increase in the price, but there will be no change in quantity. That is the main reason why I have not mentioned in the option. Have you got this as the figure?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, no? The
Yes.
only reason why you have given both has risen is you might have done it mentally. You might have not put that in your papers exactly. If you have done that in your papers, you would have got a correct figure where you can see there is no change in quantity, but increment in price. If you have done it mentally, you will be coming under this options. Is the situation clear? You can expect these kinds of questions. Yeah. See, there are 2 cases here. One is substitute good price has increased. See, what is the relationship between X and Y? In the case of substitute good, demand, they are positively related. That is when price of Y increases, quantity demand also increases, no? Demand curve of X will shift towards right. Same time, cost of production of X due to higher prices for raw material. This causes the supply to cut or it will fall. This causes the supply curve to shift towards left. So supply curve shifting towards left, demand curve shifting towards right at the same proportion that is mentioned in the question, same proportion. You can expect the new equilibrium to occur at a higher price, but no change in equilibrium quantity.
Ma'am, ma'am, can you say the same relations for complementary goods, ma'am?
Yeah, sure. See, if price of, can I erase the board? Okay. You have demand curve and supply curve. We are taking good of X, quantity of X and price of X. Initially, they are intersecting at P and Q. What if price of Y increases when X and Y are complementary? How will it influence demand as well as supply? Okay. Price of Y increases. To which direction will the demand curve for X shift? Price of Y increases. To which direction will the demand curve of X shift?
Right side, right side.
No. Price of
That's
Y
showing condition.
increases. Demand has got a negative relationship. No. Negative. So price of Y increases means demand for X will fall. This causes the demand curve to shift towards left. Okay. How will the price of Y complementary good influence the supply of X? Am I making it clear?
Yes, I don't know, ma'am. That's all.
See, second half is price of Y increases. How will it influence quantity supplied of S? There also price of complementary goods matter, right? Price of related good matters. So if price of Y increases, how will the supplier of X react towards the supply of X?
Increases.
Yeah, supply of X. To which direction will the supply curve shift?
Right.
Positive,
Right.
positive, yes.
You got it?
Okay, ma'am. Same for the income of the consumer, it is positive, right, ma'am?
Income of the consumer depends upon the type of commodity. It does not substitute complementary, etc., but it depends upon the type. Inferior good, complement, inferior good,
superior,
so
superior,
good,
and
normal good.
equilibrium.
This is the type of commodity that you have to consider for income. X, I told earlier, X of the X is first question, X to be treated as normal good. If X was inferior good and income of the consumer falls, to which direction will the demand curve shift? X is a inferior good.
Rightward.
The income of the consumer falls. To which direction will the demand curve of X shift?
Rightward.
Yeah, right. Right. You got the answer. X is inferior. Okay. Income of the consumer falls. Since income and demand for inferior commodity are negatively related, when there is a fall in the income of the consumer, demand for X increases. Yeah, demand for X increases means there is a rightward shift. Okay. So with this, we have come to the end of second chapter. Please go through it. I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes Please go through the entire chapter, make sure it is clear and comfortable, and then we'll move on to the third chapter. Kindly go through. I hope second chapter is clear. Can we move to the third chapter? I'll just start with the third chapter. Since we have got a few more minutes left. Anyway, please go through it, and if you find any difficulty, kindly make sure that you are clarifying your doubts then and there rather than keeping it piled up for till the exam. Okay, third chapter is something that is related to your service, your field of profession, money supply and inflation. Okay. Now, we have already learned in our like high school level or upper primary level what money is and how far it has been evolved due to the limitations of the first form of exchange, which is barter system. We are now particular with the defaults or the limitations of individual form of money, and we have now come down to the existing form of money. All those historical part is not so important anyway. We'll move to what are the important functions of money. Functions of money, or why do we term a money as money? Because it performs certain function. First and the foremost function is it performs certain primary function, and the first thing is medium of exchange. Every method of transaction or method of exchange, method of undergoing exchange should facilitate exchange. That is medium of exchange. You can take a pen also as money, but it should facilitate the mode of exchange. That is the main reason why we consider money as the form of money, okay, which was not fruitful at the time of barter system. Second is it has to perform unit of account function. Unit of account function means at the time of barter system, it was difficult for us to measure the quantity of goods and services into some equivalent form. See, I was planning to exchange 1 cow and it should be exactly equal to 2 sacks of rice. That was not possible, and that became easier when money was actually introduced. So you can convert money into equivalent form of goods and services, and the same way equivalent amount of goods and services can be converted into equivalent amount of money. So that turns out to be unit of account, or you can generally value goods and services. Third one is it is used for store of value. Store of value function, because since goods and services at the earlier time are generally perishable in nature, you cannot store your commodities for a longer period of time. This is where money facilitates, and you can convert the goods into money and keep it for a longer period of time, and as and when it is required, you can convert it back to goods and services. So store of value function is performed due to the evolution of money, and only one secondary function, that is standard of deferred payment. Okay, standard of deferred payment is common terms, we consider it as a credit facility. You can purchase goods and services today, but the actual payment need not be done at the same time. You can make it in the future, or you can make the payment today, but its actual transaction need not be completed today itself. You can cover it on a future day. So such kind of transaction can be facilitated with the help of money. So these are some basic things we all have learned in our lower classes. Some functions of money, which is generally divided into 2, primary function and the secondary function. Now, what is more important from your exam point of view is the money supply. Money supply, similar to that of any goods and services, any amount of goods and services being supplied. This is quantity of money being circulated in an economy at a given period of time by the monetary authorities. Obviously, it is implicitly given quantity. What quantity of money is being circulated within an economy by the monetary authorities at a given period of time is known as a money supply. And this money supply for every economy is regulated by some monetary authorities. Now, for calculating the money supply, that is, money has got different forms. Instead of considering money as currencies or coins which we are using for exchange of goods and services, we are literally converting these currencies and coins into different forms of money. So money has got different identity. In order to find out the liquidity of money supply, we make use of 4 important measurements of money supply. Please keep in your memory. These 4 equations are really important, and it is based upon these 4 equations you will have numerical problems to be accounted for. We have 4 important measures of money supply. M1, which is also known as narrow money, includes currency with the public plus demand deposits with the commercial bank plus deposits with RBI, other deposits with Reserve Bank of India, RBI. That is M1. M2 is equal to, you have M1 plus demand deposits with post offices. Instead of demand deposits, I'll give savings, okay? Savings with post offices. M3, which is also known as the broad money, is equal to M1 plus time deposits with commercial banks. Okay. M4 is equal to M3 plus all deposits with post office, but this all deposits excludes national saving certificates. This money supply measurement was introduced by a task force that was constituted in the year 1977, and later this money supply measurement was revised in the year 1998 by second Narasimham committee. Anyway, that second Narasimham committee's recommendation was not so put into practice. We have 4 other money supply measurement, but that is not so important. Usually questions and money supply measurements generally are calculated on the basis of 1977 formulae. M1 narrow money, M3 broad money. Now M1 is actually the most liquid form of money, and M4 becomes the least liquid form of money. Okay, just make sure that you are knowing the equations. Will continue in the next class. Shall I wind up?
Once again, ma'am, we note it down.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am,
Okay.
shall I end the session, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your session.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Participants, any feedback?
Thank you, ma'am. Finished, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do you have any concerns and feedback? Participants?
No, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your, I will just end the session. Two.